We're all living in a digital age. It's a time where people, strangely and funnily, sometimes rely more on Google than their own brains. It does have numerous benefits also. I won't deny that. That Google, which is omnipotent and omnipresent now in our lives, it makes every piece of information floating on the web available to anyone and everyone in just a click. And especially emergence of applications like Twitter and Facebook have shortened the distance between a common man and a public influencer or a celebrity. But I have to admit that Instagram is the icing on the cake. Teenagers and people now in their 20s and even in their early 30s scroll up and down their Instagram stories and posts endlessly. And the fact that they don't get tired of this proves that they absolutely enjoy doing it. Standing in such times, which is marked by constant engagement and instant validation, somebody have to be either a prodigy or have to be audacious enough to say that I will come up with something new, something that nobody else has discovered yet. It is quite evident from the lifestyle we have chosen for ourselves that we are surrounded by chaos much more than silence. We have chosen noise over silence. Since we have already made the choice, why not break the silence with something which will do some good to our bodies, minds, souls, and most importantly, our ears? Let's choose music. We often get blank when we are asked to define something that we have known or maybe even lived with for several years. If I ask you, what is music? Music, when you hear it, you become so euphoric. You know that very well. But how exactly would you define it? What is it for you? You can say it is a sound vibration. True. You can also say that it is a mode of entertainment. Very true. But then again, it would be a very layman-like definition. On a deeper level, the definition changes. It deepens, rather. At least for people who have mindfully experienced this art form, which is as vast as the ocean. There are several kinds of sounds which we get to hear in our daily lives. Car honks, phones ringing, calling bells, and even sometimes your mother yelling at you for not completing your homework on time. Are all these sounds music? Think carefully before you answer. Most probably you will say no. Assuming that, I can say that not every sound which is available in the environment can be put under the category of music. Of course, a music producer can record these sounds to create a musical production by cutting and pasting these sounds in specific timing. But again, if we leave them, these sounds, to the form that they originally are in, then our brain will not recognize these sounds as music. Let me give you my definition, how exactly I see music. For me, it is a sound vibration or a mix of sounds that move in harmony with each other. A configuration of frequencies that gel very nicely to create a beautiful, unique experience for the listener. In order to classify anything, we need to have a basis first. My first basis today for you all is source. When I categorize or classify music on the basis of source or where it is coming from, I reach 3 categories. Number 1, vocal music. Number 2, instrumental music. And number 3 is definitely a new and interesting category for all of us. That's environmental music. Let's come to our first category today. vocal music, you'll be pretty amazed to know that it is as simple as breathing in and breathing out. Yes, when we inhale, we simply fill up our lungs with oxygen, and when we exhale, we can either simply breathe out or generate some sounds using our vocal cords, just like I'm doing right now, to communicate with all of you. That would be speech. We are left with another option, and a very important one. We can also manipulate these sound vibrations using our vocal cords and our brain to match ear soothing frequencies. I'll simplify this for you by using an example. The same phrase, if I say it like, I love you, or I love you. And if I say it like, I love you, I love you, you can say it in your own way or sing it in your own way. When you sing it, I call it vocal music. That's what my first category is all about. Very soon, you'll find your own way. Till now, we just spoke and discussed what vocal music is all about. We spoke about how we use these vocal cords to produce sounds which are ear-pleasing. I also see these as a musical instrument sometimes, because this is an instrument which Mother Nature has planted inside our bodies so that we can use them for speech, communication, and to utilize this gift of music throughout our lives. But there are musical instruments which we are all aware of, which exist external to our bodies and not within. Some of them can be used to produce sounds, to produce melodies, and can be used for the purpose of playing different rhythm patterns also. There are melody instruments and rhythm instruments. Some melody instruments are like guitar, sitar, sarod, etc. And percussive instruments are like drums and Indian percussions like tabla, dholak, etc. A set of notes will be sung by me in this video so that you can understand the difference between vocal music and instrumental music. Da sa re ma pa da sa ni pa da ni da re ga ma ga re ga ma pa ma ga re ga ma ga ma pa da pa ma ga ma pa da ma ga re sa ni da pa ni sa re ni da ma pa ni da ni sa ni sa re ni da ma pa ni da ni sa ni da ni sa. Now let's hear how does it sound when the same set of notes is played in a sitar. It doesn't really mean that we have to understand vocal music and instrumental music separately just because they have been categorized, or hear them in isolation all the time. Music at the end of the day is flow of emotions through the notes. For me, it has always been the collaboration of the brightest musical minds who are capable of creating the magic together. When we bring these two categories, vocal and instrumental music, together, we get many amazing options like one vocal, several instruments, one vocal, one instrument, several different vocals, one instrument, and different vocals and different instruments in one musical production. The permutation and combination is really decided by the creator behind the composition, be it an instrumental piece or a song, or the people behind the sound palette or the soundscape of the song also have a role in this. Let's hear how vocal music and instrumental music is blended together.
धीरे से तेरा वो कानों में कुछ कह जाना, सर्द सांसों का गर्म यूं हो जाना, मिजाजे इश्क ने अजब रंग बिखेरा, थोड़ा सा है तेरा थोड़ा मेरा, थोड़ा सा है तेरा थोड़ा मेरा, थोड़ा मेरा.
Apart from vocals and instrument, there is one such source which is omnipotent, that is Mother Nature. Yes, why is it omnipotent? Because this is one source which we can never ever turn our back from. This is the source which gives us sounds like bird calls. As I have used bird calls in one of my productions, I remember it distinctly. Some more examples would be raindrops, chattering of raindrops to be more accurate, then murmuring of leaves, sound of a breeze just before a storm. These are sound vibrations or sounds which we find all around us in the environment. But this is only one branch of environmental music. There is another branch which is even more interesting because we can generate new sounds in this branch. New sounds can be created by using objects which surround us in our daily lives. For example, I'll show you how. This is an empty bottle and this is a pen. I can create a pattern right now for you. So, the sound will change slightly depending on the amount of water in the bottle. And a completely filled bottle will sound something like. So, every part gives a different texture, a different sound. If I play this glass, so all of these sounds, as we can see, are completely new to the ears, but different patterns can be composed and played using these objects, which make another branch of environmental music. The first branch is also interesting as music producers are always in search of sounds, new sounds, I would say. They can record bird calls and these elements of nature, sounds of nature, by using modern recording techniques if their music production needs such sounds. And a whole new soundtrack can be created using these elements of nature and by playing objects which are all around us. I gave you some examples for you to understand it more clearly. Someone only have to be bold enough to experiment and creative enough to generate unique ideas. There is also room for combining all the three categories we discussed so far: vocals, instrumentals, and elements or sounds of nature, and objects being played. Objects like which might seem mundane in our daily lives, which surround us all the time. So, merging all these three categories can lead to an interesting production, which sounds new and unique and one of a kind. But not creativity can be forced, and it should never be forced. Art is something which should not be forced just to set a trend, prove a point, or make a statement. I strongly believe that trendsetters don't go all out in their work and put their heart and soul into it just because they want to set a trend. They have a commonality, which is the ability and greed to keep looking for treasures undiscovered. Someone rightfully said once that beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. I'll give you a hypothetical example to simplify this. Supposedly, in a windy day, two friends standing in their balcony gazing at the same tree overlooking their house. One sees the swaying of the leaves and the flirting of the breeze, and the other sees a yawning child who woke up unwillingly and hence going back to sleep again and again. The same visual can carry different meaning to two different individuals. So, this proves that music, dance, painting, poetry is existing everywhere in nature, in this planet, just waiting to be found, expressed. Let us be their outlet. Let us be their expression. When I divide music on the basis of geographical variations, regional language and culture, and even sometimes the religion followed by the inhabitants of a particular area, I reach two broad categories: Indian music and Western music. So, under the umbrella of Indian music, I have Hindustani classical music, Carnatic classical music, bhajan, thumri, dadra, kajri, chaiti, etc. And also forms which are not classical or semi-classical, like Indian pop or indie pop, as we all like to call it. Indian folk, which is really vast as every state in India speaks its own language, has its own distinct culture and cuisine, and also its own music. And also music made in the movies or films is really popular in India, although it can't be seen as a specific genre. Coming to Western music, we can have Western classical music, country music, jazz, blues, rock, pop, rock and roll, rhythm and blues or R&B, hip hop, only to name a few. A couple of examples in folk music would be Spanish folk and Mexican folk. As an Indian musician, I can say with a lot of conviction that every genre that originated, sung and celebrated in every nook and corner of my India is a vast topic in itself, which will need several books to be covered in detail. So, as I had told you, you can already make out that only by going beside this ocean can keep you drenched for centuries.